Welcome to my podcast, All Things Agriculture. I'm your host, Eric Carey, and thank you for tuning in. On this podcast, get to know those who work in agriculture on a daily basis. Find out what they do, the challenges and opportunities they face, and what they think the future holds for agriculture. You'll also have a chance to hear what they do for fun when they aren't working hard to feed the world. If you're watching on YouTube, please consider subscribing to my channel and leaving a thumbs up and a comment below. If you prefer the audio version, you can listen for free on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public. And if you'd like to get in contact with me, please email me at allthingsagr@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to All Things Agriculture podcast. Thanks for tuning in and catching up with me. Hope you're all doing well and your harvest season came to a close or you're getting close to finishing up, whether you're combining or not. Anyway, I'd like to introduce our guest today, Paul Fouts. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Good. Thanks for stopping over. Luckily, you don't live too far away.
Not too far away, just a few miles.
Yeah. So, like Paul said, we're neighbors and kind of gotten to know Paul a little bit since coming home from school. But anyway, why don't you introduce yourself, Paul, and tell us a little bit about your farm.
Okay, so I'm Paul. I'm the third generation on our farm. We currently milk right around 600 cows, 1,200 tillable acres. All of that goes to feed the cows. I work closely with my wife and my parents. They are still involved. They don't do too much with the cows anymore unless we really need the help. But my parents do help out a lot out in the field, that's more of a seasonal thing. So they can, this kind of weather, they can take it easy a little more. Mm-hmm. They aren't out in the barn so much. So I do have two kids that help out when they can, but they aren't home much anymore. They've graduated. Well, one's graduated from college. The other one will here in a couple of weeks. And they're on two separate coasts. My daughter's in California, and my son will be out in New Hampshire here shortly. So,
Ag related or what?
Well, my son, he'll start with that one. He's graduating with a mechanical engineering degree, and he's going to work for an engineering firm. Not so much agriculture related, but certainly with his experiences at home, probably would help him out there. Mm-hmm. My daughter, on the other hand, is agriculture related. She's in a PhD program out in UC Davis. Not exactly sure how to describe it, but basically, how do we make the dairy industry a little more environmentally friendly as far as greenhouse gas emissions, that sort of thing. So that's her focus out there. So she is working with cows all the time, just not at home.
I think it's one of those things. If you grow up on a farm, it's always in you in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that I know myself. I don't ever remember a day where I wasn't thinking about cows. So
I could probably agree with you on that one, especially.
There's pictures of me in the bassinet on the top of the bulk tank, and so I've always been in it. So
yeah. So I guess a little bit about your farm. You said your father owned the farm. Is he the first generation?
No, my grandfather started it in 1937. Kind of getting towards the end of the Depression. The story I was told is he bought the farm because he wanted to be his own boss. If he was going to lose his job, it was going to be his own fault. He was, through the Depression, he was going from job to job wherever he could get work, and it was a hard time, I'm sure. He started, the farm originally was owned by the Suggets, which is, the Sugget Park and all that in Cortland.
Yeah.
So they were one of the rich families in town, and they had our farm as an escape from the city life. And they would rent it out to people. And from what I understand and from the pictures I see, that's the condition it was in reflected that. It was not the greatest of shape. And I was told that everybody laughed and said he's going to fail. And we have a map from 1874, I believe, that the Suggets had. And all of the neighbors we now own. So
You got the last laugh, literally.
Yeah. But he worked hard to do it. There was no question about that. And then my father took over in the early 70s. He really took over. But as you probably know, in a family business, there's no real line. It's more of a blur of taking over. And it was the same with my father and myself. But slowly kind of developed into more me than him, and I'm sure that was with his father too. And I came home directly from college. I don't know whether you worked off the farm for a bit or not. I don't think I would recommend coming straight home. Everything I learned was kind of learned the hard way, as far as management styles, and I've never had a boss outside of my father or my parents. I guess my mother is really involved too, so it's not really just him. So I don't have that experience of being an employee. I don't have experience of different management styles outside of attending meetings and stuff like that. Until I got on some boards and organizations. And the higher up I went, got out of the local, got more of a state level, then I got to see some different management styles, which really helped.
You find out what you like and what you don't like, or how you would want to be managed.
Yeah. And also, in certain circumstances, what kind of mannerisms work and don't. Certainly being on a board of a organization that's a people organization. In my case, I was on the state board at Farm Bureau, and to watch, the people that were on there, these were all good going managers, and to learn from them was very helpful. So I think I probably brought home more than I took there, as far as any growth or anything like that, but it was certainly well worth it.
Yeah, so I guess might as well jump into a little bit your time at Farm Bureau, because you started out in local county Farm Bureau and moved your way up through. I assume.
So that's kind of a story of its own. When I graduated from Cornell and came home, my father was on the board of directors for Cortland County Farm Bureau. Even though our farm's in Tompkins County, we've always belonged to Cortland just because it's closer.
Yeah, makes sense.
And we're right on the county line. And so they had troubles finding a president, and it was basically, my son graduated from Cornell. He thinks he knows everything. Let's have him do it. And so that was my start in the Farm Bureau. I was the Cortland County president for, I think, a year.
Right out of school.
Right out of college. I was probably 22 years old. And way over my head. There's a lot of tradition in probably any organization, but certainly in Farm Bureau. And the people have been there for years did not particularly like a 22-year-old trying to take over. So I had to butt heads a little bit there, and I was certainly ahead of my time.
Why didn't they run for president if they didn't want you being in there?
They had their several years of it.
Oh, okay. They had their time.
Oh yeah, they had their time.
Yeah.
And so they had been there, and I was new to the board. I didn't have any experience with it.
Yeah.
And it was at times made known that I didn't know what I was doing, and so that was my beginning in Farm Bureau. We kind of got busy doing other things and moved away from it for a while. And then what got me back into it was my daughter was in fourth grade, and the fourth grade, at least at Homer, my kids went to Homer. They the focus at fourth grade was New York stuff. And so at the end of the school year, they would take the whole entire fourth grade class up to Albany to give them see what Albany is, as far as New York government. And they had a bunch of fundraisers and stuff. I hate fundraisers. And I wasn't going to sell a bunch of cookies and stuff like that to do that. So I had this brilliant idea. I would go to some farm, some businesses in town, and Farm Bureau being one of them. I thought it was right up Farm Bureau's alley as government. And went to the board of directors and pitched my spiel there, and they didn't provide any money for it. But I started looking around at the board, and they were all good people and certainly had agriculture at heart, but that's not where they were getting their income from, at least not to live. There was no full-time farmers on that board. And to me, that was just wrong. And so my presence there apparently alerted the nominating committee. So when they were looking for somebody to be on the board, they called me up. And I said, well, I guess I got to put my money where my mouth is. And so I got on the board.
This is 10, 15 years later?
From when I was president. Yeah, good 10 years. And then the oddest thing, soon after I got on the board, I wasn't on there for a year, I don't think. The president, the treasurer, and the secretary, which is really the officers, all died within a month.
They all died?
They all died of, I believe, cancer. Anyways,
wow.
It was very fast.
Wow.
And so that didn't leave much left. There was basically three of us left. And one of them was the president prior. And so he took over the president. I was vice president. And then the other person was the treasurer. And the three of us, along with the state representative, tried to pull it all together because we didn't have any of the books. We had nothing. And so we're basically starting from scratch. And which in a way was a good thing. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't long after that, the person that took over the presidency, he didn't want to be president, and so he says, I'm not doing this. and of course I was vice president, so that made me president.
Okay.
And so it kind of threw me in there, and well, it's either we're going to let it go or we're going to try to run with it. Well, I decided to run with it, and I had some ideas. And one thing led to another, and we started, what really got things going, at least as far as my Farm Bureau thing, was I had this brilliant idea at, let's see if I can remember how it went, that road safety. And with farming and the public on the road.
Yeah, people passing.
Yeah. And so we set up this thing. There was a two-pronged thing. It was one was to educate the farmers. Okay, what are the laws on the road, and how can we as farmers behave better and maybe avoid some of these situations. And then there was a public side of it that alerting them, hey, we're on the road. We aren't on there that long, most likely. And it doesn't really take up that much of your time. If we're on there for a mile, it might take you, 3 or 5 minutes longer.
Yeah.
It's not worth taking somebody's life. And, so we had that two-prong thing, and that project just took a life of its own. It got to be a certain point that if I wanted to stop it, I couldn't. It just snowballed. It just took over.
In a good way.
In a good way.
Okay. Yeah.
And it got me, I was really used to being in my own little bubble. My family, when we go to church, we sit in the back and we leave. We're not social people. We work hard at home, and that's what we like to do. And suddenly I was on TV, I was on the radio, I was in the magazines and papers, and it just snowballed, and it put me in a bit of a spotlight that I was not expecting to be in, but it turned out I was not bad at it. And we won a national award for it. And
really? Wow.
Yeah, so we went to tennis. The bunch of us from Cortland County Farm Bureau went to Tennessee to the National Farm Bureau meeting, annual meeting, and along with other winners of this award from around the country, and got to present what we did, and then I just eventually, so I was president for 5 years of Cortland County Farm Bureau for that, and I was treasurer, and there was a bunch of things going on there, and then there was a position opened up on the state board, so I decided to run and moved up to the state board, and then I really got to get used to talking in front of people and being on a microphone and all that, and I found that when it was something that I was passionate about and something I knew quite a bit about, I was very comfortable behind that microphone, which I found at the birthings. I've volunteered at the birthing center too. Mm-hmm. You would think that standing in front of 250, 300 people would make you nervous, but for some reason it didn't. I was very comfortable there.
You know what you're talking about, and
I knew what I was talking about. I could handle people that thought they knew what they were talking about but didn't, in a polite, respectful way. And I was able to make stuff up on the go, improvise a lot. Mm-hmm. A lot of things that when I was in high school and took public speaking, I was awful. I was just a mess on, standing in front of people. And
yeah.
For some reason, I went to the birthing center and not expecting to be on a microphone, and got there, and this was right after I was started on Facebook, which I'm assuming we'll get into also.
Yeah, we'll bring into that.
So Jessica Zim, who ran the birthing center at the time, was friends with me on Facebook, and she handed me the microphone, and she says, "Here, take over." And so I stood in front of all those people watching that calf being born, and I said, "Well, you're in trouble now." I was able to interact with the people. It's not just me spouting off facts and what they're looking at. We had a conversation about anything that had to do with agriculture, and I had enough background, whether it was government policy or whether it was technical stuff. I had enough background that I could answer the questions good enough. And the public isn't looking for somebody with a PhD. They're looking for somebody that can put it in their in a language they can understand.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that. So that kind of got things going. And but then when I got on the state board, we were milking 400 cows twice a day, and when I got off, we were milking 600 cows 3 times a day, with not much more labor. And my kids had graduated from high school, gone off to college, so they weren't home. And my parents they're getting older. They can't do what they used to do. So I said, it's time I have to go home. And so I got off the board. But it was a great experience. Wonderful people doing whatever they can to help us out up there. It's at times it's an impossible job, but
yeah, 'cause, I mean, when you were on the state board, you're traveling all over New York. You're talking with lawmakers. You're in Albany. You're kind of You're doing. It's a very
not just New York. We went down to Washington D.C. and stuff. And,
okay.
And the political climate has changed in New York since I was on this. The Senate went Democrat, mm-hmm. and really, Albany is still on a map as the capital of New York, but for all intents and purposes, it's New York City. So they're spending a lot more time going down to New York City. We didn't when I was on the board, but we certainly went and spent a lot of time in the halls of Albany, down to Washington D.C. Some. When you're on the board, you get to see people that nobody else would. I got to be on a first name basis with Richard Ball, who's the Commissioner of Agriculture. At the time, Pat Hooker was very close to the governor, so we knew him very well.
You kind of have your ins.
Yeah. The Commissioner of Labor has been to my farm, fed calves at our place. She's called me on the phone. So these people that you normally wouldn't cross paths with, you got to know fairly well. And those are just some of the examples. But and we got to travel around New York some, and you certainly meet lots of people, and you find out there's more to agriculture than dairy.
Yeah.
Certainly when you go to the national convention, you find out how small dairy is on the grand scheme of things. It's here in central New York, we don't think of it as a kind of specialty part of agriculture, but it really is. It's just in small pockets around the country. You find out that the crop side is much bigger.
Yeah.
And so it's an education. When I was down in Tennessee at the national convention, I sat next to somebody that grew rice in Louisiana, and in rice they also grow crawfish. It was a double crop sort of thing. And
oh, really?
It's a completely different world. We're in the same country, we're in the same organization, but it's a completely different world. It's there's very little the same. I mean, they're flooding their fields. They don't deal with rocks. It's all so it was an eye opener. It's something when you're staying at home milking cows, you're not exposed to all that stuff. So getting out and belonging to organizations, whatever they are, and broadening your horizons is a good thing. Helps you out. You can bring stuff home that, if nothing else, you understand people a little better.
Yeah, I think Farm Bureau, that's kind of a nice thing about if you're a part of Farm Bureau and you go to the yearly meeting, it kind of forces you to get out for a day or two and intermingle with others. And even at the New York, it's you forget there's a lot of apple growers and maple and turf down in Long Island, and it's
you throw in the hemp people, and boy, it goes. It gets interesting fast.
Get the beer guys in there too, right?
Oh yeah,
that's the best part.
That's gotten a lot bigger in the last few years, but yeah.
If you've never been to a New York Farm Bureau annual meeting, there's always usually a nice beer selection.
Yeah, for all local stuff. It's New York stuff too, so it's not like it's Bud Light or something. It's something good.
No, it's that good craft beer.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, when you're in Albany and DC, being there a lot, could you ever imagine doing a politician's life of just? I mean, really, you saw it more than I ever have. I
enjoyed being there. The lobby days, when you go see your legislators and stuff, my favorite part of the lobby days was being in the elevator with somebody, completely removed from agriculture and having a conversation with them. Not so much necessarily about agriculture, just what are your concerns? Mm-hmm. And we're all there asking for stuff.
Yeah, lobby days is more than just Farm Bureau.
Oh,
it's everyone you can imagine, yeah.
And it's, we give politicians a bad time, and probably rightly so, but it's an impossible job. I mean, how do you, we have, requests that require money that make it possible for us to do business. And in some cases, if it wasn't there, it would be tough to do business. And then somebody else comes in and wants money because they need a place to live. And, there's only so much money. Mm-hmm. And so it's a difficult position. It certainly takes a special personality.
Yeah.
I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed walking the halls. There were times where I thought that, I might kind of enjoy this, but when you're on the dairy farm, my father always said, we can, if we don't like it, we can beef it, trade it, or fire it. One of those three things. When you're a politician, you can do none of that. You can't get rid of it. Mm-hmm. Somehow you gotta compromise, and you gotta. And the nastiness of politics is, I guess Winston Churchill put it the best way. Tact is telling somebody to go to hell and having them looking forward to the trip. So that that's what you got to learn how to do. There's winners and there's losers, and you got to make the losers feel like they won, or you're in trouble.
Yeah. You can't make everyone happy.
No. And it doesn't really work to try to make everybody ticked off equal either. So it's a tough spot, and I'm not sure if I have the stomach for it, but I certainly enjoyed whenever I went there, and a lot of it was being exposed to people that it's a completely different life, and something that I have never experienced, but it's interesting to talk to them to see what their challenges are, and really in most of those cases it never really got into an agricultural. They never knew who I was. There were times, because you would show up there in a suit and tie, and if you put your name tag in your pocket, so they don't know who you belong to, sometimes they'll lobby you. Because they think that you are somebody important.
An assistant, or
because they don't know who you are.
No.
And I don't know who they are. So they see somebody in a generic suit, they're gonna try to sway them a little bit. But if you're wearing the Farm Bureau name tag, then they kind of leave you alone. So I learned that fairly early on. You put your name tag in your pocket, and then you can have a more honest conversation.
Yeah.
So
I always find going to those things are enjoyable. Like you said, you kind of get to see a different way politics works with the lobbying, but I'm always happy to get home, and a barn full of cows is definitely a lot easier to the cows are easy, as I'm sure you can tell. Cows are easy to manage. It's when you have to deal with people, it's a whole nother
and
box of
it's the
worms.
same with even in the dairy business. We got to deal with people, whether it's employees or government agencies, or we're dealing with people, and that's the hardest part of the job. And that's probably true everywhere. But certainly, I hit the barn at 2:30 every morning, 7 days a week, and from 2:30 until 6:30, I'm pretty much alone in the barn, and that's very nice. Once 6:30 hits, then things start to get a little busy, but
people start showing up for shifts, and new people switch out.
Right. Yeah. So from 2:30 to 6:30, my day is fairly routine. Certainly things go wrong any time of day, and you got to address those as they come up. But for the most part, those 4 hours are routine, and I can peacefully think about stuff. After that, then things are not so much routine for me. There's more people around, there's more things going on, and more things breaking down, and other businesses are opening up and whatever. So then my life changes. But
it's amazing how much you can get done before anyone else is
awake.
There. Yeah, awake. Some days it's like, wow, you can really get a lot, especially like you said, if you aren't getting, not that I experience getting phone calls, I'm sure you get a lot more than I do, but when you aren't going to basically get a phone call for anything major for a couple hours, you can really get a lot accomplished. Yeah. And then that's done and out of the way, and you have the rest of the day to tackle those unforeseen jobs.
If my phone rings in those 4 hours, it's like,
parlor's down.
Who in the world calling me this time?
Yeah.
No, the parlor's on a radio. I have to carry a two-way radio, and we have a radio in the parlor. So if they have a problem, they call on the radio.
Do they not get good reception over there with phones? I know
it's terrible. Yeah.
Still?
Yeah. So in the milking facility, in the milk house and the milking parlor, there's zero service. which is kind of good because then the people that are in there are working.
Yeah.
They aren't playing around on their phone.
Yeah.
Out in the barn is kind of spotty. I can usually get a text message, but making a phone call is kind of tough.
Okay.
So if something's happening on my phone, I have to step outside of the barn and see if I can grab some service. But
it's crazy with where cell phones are, and you still can't get a couple bars where, you know, it's always been a dead spot through there. Always has been around that bend.
Yeah, I kind of explained we're in the Bermuda Triangle. Because if you type in our address and a GPS, it'll take you to Burger King in town.
What? Burger King?
Yeah. So,
cows aren't there yet.
No. So I discovered that first when we ordered a grain bin. So a fully, assembled grain bin shows up down to Burger King. How do you turn this thing around in town? They're asking, where the heck are you? So we know that, and whenever possible, we come up. There's a make believe address that works in the GPS that we tell people that. But every once in a while, we give them our billing address, which is how we get our mail and stuff. But doesn't get your car here.
You should be able to go on Google Earth, Google Maps. You can change those. You can change.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because probably 4 or 5 years ago, our farm address was the end of Lick Street, down by where Dick Church used to live. And a little funny story: my sister got married in 2017, and her and her bridesmaids got ready at my parents' house at the farm. We all go to the church. They're going to have a limousine or something pick them up and take them to the church in St. Mary's. St. Mary's and Cortland get married. We're all at the church. Oh, where's Megan? Time goes by. Tick, tick, tick. Where's Megan? What the heck? Suddenly, I don't know. She showed up a little bit late. She said the GPS took the limo to the wrong place.
Yeah.
So, you can change it, so...
It's not all bad if you. The EPA has, because of our herd size, we're a CAFO, which is a regulated dairy, and the EPA has a list of all the CAFOs along with their address, and you can click on it and see a picture of the dairy. Well, if you bring ours up, it's not Burger King. It's another business down there that shows.
Okay,
and that's fine with me. Anybody that's as enough time probably is not looking that up to be friendly.
Yeah.
So I just assumed they didn't know where we were.
Yeah, the important people know where you are. You'll make sure they find you.
Yeah, if I want you to be there, I'll let you know. But otherwise, you can go down to Burger King. I don't care.
Yeah, this Fouts Farm, sure. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's beef. So
yeah, it's beef. Yeah, it's close enough, right? So I guess you're kind of alluding to you've gotten into Facebook over the last, I don't know how many years ago you started using it.
I was late to this whole social media scene. 2015 or 16, something like that, and it was really by accident. I was perfectly fine just scrolling through my wife's Facebook. My mother had a Facebook page before I did. So to keep up with friends from college and stuff, my wife and I went to the same college, so that's where we met, and had friends in common. So, scrolling through there, her Facebook was fine with me. I didn't have to participate on it. But then a friend of hers on Facebook posted one of these anti-animal agriculture videos, and claiming I'm done with all this and whatever. And so I got in a conversation with her on Facebook, on my wife's Facebook page, and this is all public. This isn't friends to friends setting, or this is a public.
This is a public back and forth.
Yeah, and explaining what she was actually seeing in the video. It didn't have to do with the dairy industry; it was on the hog industry, but there's a lot of similarities there. I knew what I was seeing. And there was a lot of things that were taken out of context, and there's a lot of false narrative to it, that if you knew what you were looking at, you knew that you're being you're being duped on the thing. So I explained the CAFO regulations that we follow in New York, and how we handle manure here, and how we treat our animals and stuff like that. And this went on well through the night. And here I got to get up at 2:30 in the morning. And, but at the end, this person said, I never knew that. And it was like a light bulb going off that why would you? You are in the middle of a very metropolitan area, never been out in the country, and your only connection to a farm is me, and I've said nothing. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I was toying around with an idea. I was president of Cortland County Farm Bureau, and I was toying around with a idea that required me to get a Facebook page to do it. I was trying, back in the day, they had these kitchen conferences, I think they were called.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe we could do that on Facebook. Same sort of thing, but have a Facebook group where they just, have a private chat. Never flew. Didn't go. Maybe because I had no idea what I was doing. But it required me to get a Facebook page, which my wife told me that I had to do because I was never going to do that again, have a public conversation on her page. So I got myself a Facebook page, and I still really don't know what I'm doing. There's certainly people that know a lot more about Facebook than me. But I started posting pictures of the farm. What else am I going to post? I don't have anything else to do. That's what I do all the time. And well, lo and behold, what is routine to me was interesting to people. And I also had, I guess you can put it an interesting way of explaining what they were seeing. At times I put some humor in there, and it certainly is me. It's not, we don't have a farm page. It's just, this is me. This is my personal page. And so if from time to see my political views, you see, this is me. Mm-hmm. Which, okay, that's the way it is. And, being somebody that is not very social, I'm not the first one you would want to invite to a party because I'm not going to be the life of it. It's just not who I am. And, social media is certainly is acquired for me. It's not something that is natural. So there's been a lot of times where I'm like, I'm just not going to do this anymore. And then somebody will send something going, they've never liked a thing on it that I've ever posted. And like, I read this all the time, and I tell all my friends all this stuff. I'm like, what in the world? And
so you almost feel burdened to keep, not burdened, but just
it's not really burden.
It's work. What you want to accomplish is
So I don't know if you're old enough to remember WKRP, but when I was a kid, there was a show called WKRP. It was a radio thing out in Cincinnati, Ohio. It was a comedy.
Okay.
And the DJ was trying to get somebody else that wanted to be a DJ to get comfortable behind the microphone, and he said, "Don't worry, nobody's listening anyways." And then he said something that encouraging people to dump all their trash on the city hall steps, and they did. And he found out people were actually listening. So it's the same sort of thing. You sit there behind the computer in your own safety little bubble, and 45 people like something or whatever, and so you're not being influenced by thinking that you have a lot of followers and stuff. I never went into using Facebook wanting to become famous. Mm-hmm. I don't want to become famous. I've had 3 or 4 different things that I posted publicly that went, at least for me anyways, it would be defined as viral. All of a sudden, within days, there's 100,000 people that have looked at it and commented or whatever. To me, that was huge. By a lot of standards, it's not, but it scared the hell out of me. There's people from everywhere in the world that suddenly knows where I live, who I'm at, who I am, and are making comments. Some of it was not good. if you want to feel bad about yourself, you can read some of these comments.
Comment section could be nasty.
Yeah. There was one that went crazy that, I had to do with, calves and hutches and removing them from mothers and stuff like that. And, the comments I got from some people, I mean, they wanted me to die. It was terrible. And
that would make me want to just say,
yeah. So, there's some people out there that, hey, I want to have the biggest audience possible. I want to influence as many people as I can. That's not me. I don't have the stomach for it. I certainly am willing to have a conversation with rational people. A lot of those people are not. So I limit things now. I rarely make anything public. Limit things to friends. There's probably half of the people on my friends list where I'm preaching to the choir. There's other farmers. And there's things that I post that are helpful to other farmers. Hey, we're dealing with this disease. You might be too. And, be careful. So there's things that other farmers can get out of it. But I got high school classmates that don't have a farm connection. I have family that don't have a farm connection. So I'm educating enough. Yeah. I don't have to educate the world. Yeah. I have no desire to be famous.
I found before I started doing the podcast and stuff, I had Facebook, from high school through college. And then after I graduated from college, I got to a point where it was just, I got sick of reading everyone's, I did this. It's like, I really don't care. It wasn't useful. I'm sure, it's just like, I don't care. So I got rid of it for, I don't know, a year or two. And it was great. Yeah. At first it was hard because you're so used to pick up your phone. Oh, I'm bored. I'll look through. Yeah. So I was like, I can't do that anymore. So you find something more constructive to do with your time. And you get to a point where it's just like, you see people and you don't know what they've been up to. You don't know.
So you have a conversation.
You can actually catch up with people, which is kind of cool. When I got into doing this, I didn't intend on getting a Facebook page, but some of my friends or people were like, oh, how do is there a Facebook page so I can see, where you're posting and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll bite the bullet and make one. I thought I could just make a page just for the podcast. Well, no, you have to link it to a private account. So suddenly I was thrown back into it, and there's days where I'm just like, man, if I could just delete it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, so I post a fair amount of stuff. Probably it's not too often there's a day that goes by that I don't put something on there. So you would think that I spend a lot of time on Facebook. And my wife might argue with me on this, but I really don't scroll through it that much. I can't say it takes over my life, but there's, I'm always looking for something that, hey, this might be interesting, or, I can take a picture of this, and explain it.
Constructive information. Yeah. It's not like, I had pizza for lunch. Whoop. It's like, I don't care. Or I have to post something political every single day. It's like,
I don't get into that. I do get into the politics once in a while, but I try to avoid it. I don't have to influence people on what I politically believe or religion or anything like that. This is really gotten to, it's really all farm, and it's just, this is the way it is. This isn't the way I think it should be. This is the way it is. Mm-hmm. It's not all sunshine and rainbows like I've heard people say. It's dirty and it's messy, and cows are not people. Although there's some people that are worse than cows, but
I would agree with that.
They're not rational beings. You can't sit there and say, don't do this, or you might hurt yourself.
Yeah.
I tell people, this is junior high. There's bullies, and there's people that are going to get, cows that are going to get picked on, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's just what they are. And some are going to get hurt, and some are going to get in trouble, and some are going to get sick, and it's not pretty when they do, but we have to deal with it, and it's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you want to believe that or not, it doesn't matter, because that's just the way it is. And so I post it. I've posted a prolapse on there, and I posted DA operations, and Facebook doesn't particularly like it when I do that, but I do it, and people see it, and I explain it. I try when it's blood and gore stuff. I did learn fairly early on that if you post more than 5 pictures, the 6 and above are hidden. When it comes up on the screen, you don't see those.
Well, Facebook basically censors it
well,
in
no,
a way, or they just don't.
No,
it's too much.
It's too much. And so I, put on the first 5 pictures are of calves and flowers and stuff like that, and say, if you want to see this, click on the rest of them.
Yeah.
And if not, scroll on by. You're not being forced to look at it. But
it's a good way to do it.
So that's how I did it. And of course, it got so Facebook was saying this is blood and gore and covered it up anyways. But it was a way to get some of the nastiness out there without forcing people to look at it. If you want to see it, fine. If you don't, fine. But this is what we're dealing with. So if the Facebook is another thing, it's kind of taken a life of its own. But I don't know. Someday I might walk away from it. But for now, and I don't get into the others. And you see TikTok and Instagram and all this. I don't even have time for Facebook. So, yeah. So I just stick to the one. I just have, the list of friends. I'm not out there to educate the world. Let somebody else do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think Facebook can be a little bit useful. Than I like YouTube more than anything. You can actually learn stuff from that's in my free time when I'm not at the farm, when I'm at home before I go to bed. You can learn a lot of cool stuff on YouTube. That's what I find.
Yeah. Although I'm old enough, I guess that's I don't spend a lot of time on that stuff. But yeah, you can learn. I know that you can, because I have. Learn most anything you want on YouTube. But as far as making content that goes on there, I guess my thing is I take a picture, make a short explanation of what you're seeing, move on. I have done some videos where I have, done talking on them, but I'm not good at it. It takes several takes to get it done, and I just don't have the time. So I see something interesting, I take a quick picture of it, and when I get the time, I make a comment, print some comment about it. And also I can, if I make, and my wife catches me all the time, I misspell words and stuff like that. I can go back and edit it. Where if you make a video, once it's out there, it's kind of hard to do something about it.
Yeah.
But
that's fair enough. I guess kind of going more into what do you see? I guess you could maybe, if you want to talk about what are some of the challenges of being a farmer or a business owner, and then what's your long-term future for it? Where do you see things going?
So certainly the dairy industry, the last, I would say at least the last 10 years has been tough. The way my father farmed 25 years ago just doesn't work. And, which is part of the, problem where, things are going so fast, changing so fast that he can't keep up. So it kind of evolved where he kind of took a back seat and I took over, because things just changed so fast. It's been challenging. The markets are just challenging. They're up and down. And now with many of the co-ops having some sort of a base excess program where they deduct from your paycheck if you overproduce, go beyond whatever number it is. It's tough to milk your way out of a problem. It used to be you just add some cows to get some more milk to dilute out any fixed costs you have. Those opportunities aren't there so much anymore. It's taking a lot more imagination to try to figure out how to make things work. I think it's going to be difficult in the future for a farm my size to survive, which is, we're 600 cows. I was saying we're in at 5 to 1,000 cows is going to be really tough. Probably you could include a lot on either side of that. Just because you cannot dilute out the cost of certain ways to get efficiencies. You got to spread it out over more cows, and it's difficult to do that with our size. We're too big to be small and too small to be big.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of the same field equipment and even barn equipment to service our farm as it does 2,000 cows. So it's difficult. I think I don't know whether my kids will be coming home to take over. They are just starting to see what the real world is and see whether they want to stay in it. And if they do, that's fine. I'll do everything I can to help them out. If they don't, that's fine. But regardless, I think that probably we'd have to join forces with a neighbor farm somehow. And I'm not sure how that would look. But I think we're going to be, at some point, forced to figure it out. Somehow we got to work together with other farms to make it work. And I told my kids when I'm 50, I'm not going to work this hard anymore. We're going to try to figure out how to, it takes a while to get out. It takes a while to get in. It's very capital intensive. So to release yourself of all that capital when for an exit strategy, it takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. Because there's debt to pay off, there's taxes to pay. And if you just sell it all at once, you're probably going to take 3 generations of work and throw it away because the government and the bank will take it all. Mm-hmm. So you have to figure, how do we get out? And I'm not going to wait till I'm 70 to figure it out, which a lot of people do when they get in trouble. And I'm almost 49, so that deadline I told my kids is fast approaching. So I'm getting old enough now that the exit strategy is getting to be more forefront than certainly somebody when I was your age.
Yeah.
When I was in my 30s, is how can go. Mm-hmm. And now it's, there's things that hurt in my body that never hurt before, and that pain doesn't seem to go away. How long can my body take this? And how long can I keep up with all these changes before I start going backwards? It's certainly a young man's game, and or a young person. There's certainly a lot of females that can do it a lot better than I can. So my wife and I, that certainly is starting to creep forward in our minds. What is the exit strategy, and how do we get there? Mm-hmm. And whether that involves our kids or whether it involves a neighbor farm or both, I don't know. We'll find out. But in any case, I really think that the strategy is the same. You need to have a well thought out, profitable business that somebody can take over, whether it's family or not. So we got to make that work somehow. Otherwise, we're going to lose it all.
You have to make it attractive to someone who wants to come in and take a go at it.
Yep. If you run your business like you're going to be out of business tomorrow, So you're not putting in, you're not keeping up with technology. You're not putting in, efficiencies and stuff like that. And you're still feeding cows with a wheelbarrow, that sort of thing. Nobody's going to buy that.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to join forces with you. You need something that, is fairly modern, that is well thought out. Things work, efficiently. So that's, regardless of where things end up, whether it stays in the family or not, I think the strategy is the same. So that's the route that we're taking. And it's not always easy, but to find out, how do we make this work?
The old rules, like you said, of just add on some cow, those rules are no longer applied in a lot of ways. The traditional ways of getting yourself out of trouble.
It's not like you just put a lean-to on the barn and keep, add on 20 cows. It's and of course, as you get bigger, adding on 20 cows is nothing.
Yeah.
It's okay. We build a barn and we're going to put on 200 cows or 2,000 cows. Well, it's all percentages. Those days are. It takes more than just adding on some cows.
Yeah.
And we aren't. I don't think anyone has really figured out all these. How do we manage with this base access programs that are out there? I don't think we've figured it out yet. Certainly, I haven't.
Yeah. I look at what's going on now in the future, and unless something drastic happens, I don't really see anything changing in terms of base plans, all that, because we have plenty of milk.
Yeah, those programs aren't going away.
Yeah, and so it's like, how do you, and some people might think, well, does it make, farm our size, it's like, well, do we pivot and diversify into something else? We're still small enough where we can, wiggle around, have we talk about doing retail and stuff just to try to, take your own product and make it value added.
We it's a long time ago now, probably 15 years ago, we explored those routes. I don't know if you remember, we had the little farm stand out there. We sold sweet corn. We had a corn maze.
By the silos, right? Where the silos are now.
The corn maze, the bunker silo sits where the corn maze was, which was the last year. So we actually stopped doing it, and our insurance company called us up. So they're dropping us for liability. And we're like, why? And like, well, we don't cover corn mazes. And like, there's a bunker silo sitting there. I couldn't grow a stalk of corn there if I wanted to. Don't worry about it. So, they didn't drop us. But, we learned a lot about ourselves. We didn't lose money through all that. We sold strawberries and pumpkins and, everything we could think of. We grew the pumpkins, some of them anyways. We grew the sweet corn. And we had a number of things as far as agritainment type stuff. I can't, we weren't, like Trinity Valley does a much better job than we did. They're a lot more talented than we were. That's what we learned about ourselves, is that we can work with cows a lot better than we can work with people. Towards the end, I said I'd rather milk 1,000 cows than sell one more cucumber. So we just aren't retail people. Our marketing plan through the years has been the milk truck comes and takes it away. And we didn't have those talents, which is fine. It's good to know that. So we got out of that. What really killed it in the end was I was going to these direct marketing meetings, and I sat at a table where there was people much bigger and much better than us. Sort of like the Iron Kettle was, but they weren't the ones at the table. I don't know how much Iron Kettle does now, but or Beacon Skiff, that type of thing.
Okay.
And there was 4 or 5 of these people. They had these really what I would call well done, successful operations. And they sat around the table and said, "How many times did you get sued this year?" They're getting sued. They get sued every single year for something. Somebody twists an ankle or something. And I came home. We were making $20,000 or something off this stand, and we're making money. We weren't getting rich by any means, but it was not losing money. But if you look at what the dairy farm brings, as far as gross revenue, You're taking a $20,000 business and comparing it to a $3 million business at the time, probably, as far as gross revenue. And we sat down as a family. I'm like, why are we doing this? We're fighting with each other because we don't agree how to market anything. And if we got sued because somebody twists an ankle here at the farm stand, they aren't going to stop the farm stand. They're going to go down the road.
Yeah. And
that's where, our interests are. That's where our passion is. That's where we're making the money that we're living on. Let's ditch this thing while we still can. And so we got out of it. And, I look at what, people like Trinity Valley are doing. Like, geez, that would be nice. But then I realize I'm not them. I just don't have the talent to do it. I can look at a cow and I can tell you where she's going to go before she ever moves. But I can't read people enough to say, hey, if I put this item at this level and make it look like this, you're going to buy it. I just don't have it. So I know a lot about cows. I know very little about people. And that's who I am. So it's good to know who we are.
Yeah, that's true. You found out and you were smart enough to say,
yep, this is not us.
We tried it. It doesn't work. Move on.
Yep.
Don't lose your shirt.
Certainly, I'm not against diversifying in some way, and we're always looking for new ideas. But we know that that's not it. We just don't have it. We're wholesale marketing type people where some big truck comes and takes it away.
Come get it and take it. Yeah. That's kind of like we've talked about. We do. I'm sure you have Angus that you breed.
Yeah.
And it's, that's kind of an outlet where I can manage a herd of Angus. You can manage a herd of dairy cows. You can really easily manage a herd of Angus. Like, maybe that's something that, and like you said, you can put them on a truck and send them to an auction, or someone wants to buy a pot and you can send them. It's
when this pandemic hit, when COVID hit here in March of 2020, we were dumping milk all over the place, and we dumped one load at our place. The truck pulled 8,000 gallons out of the tank, went around back and dumped it in the manure storage, which was tough for all the help to see. It's really a morale. It really hits morale.
Killer.
Yeah. So I had this brilliant idea. DFA was going out and donating milk, doing these milk donations, and we were paying for it. They had DFA's name on it, saying DFA Farms. But who goes by my place and knows I'm a DFA farm? But the cost of that came out of my milk check, and so I had this brilliant idea that I would find a processor. We have a 8,000 gallon tank and a 2,000 gallon tank. And since they're dumping milk anyways, we aren't getting diddly squat for it. If we're gonna donate the stuff, I want my name on it. And so I looked into, I call up Cornell Processing over there, Cornell Dairy Processing, and all night to see if they'd haul it. And I found a place that does the labels. And so it was at the time it was possible to do it, but it was expensive. And I almost did it. And then I got a hold of somebody that was in charge of these milk donations and found out it's very hard to move 2,000 gallons worth of milk. That's a lot of milk. To me, that's nothing. I got an 8,000 gallon tank, a 2,000 gallon tank. The 8,000 fills a milk truck. The other one they use to top off a milk truck when they come in. So 2,000 gallons didn't sound like much to me because I'm used to the large volumes. But when you get on the retail side or get on, the consumer side, 2,000 gallons is a lot of milk to move. And it didn't sound like I could do it. So I didn't do it. And then by the time it was all over, the processing plant wasn't willing to do it anymore either. But it was an eye opener there too that, I'm so used to large scale, where the margins are thin. So you make it by volume, and that's just the way, that's what we've always done. That's what our mindset is. And to switch that over to, instead of pumping on 2,000 gallons, here you have a half-gallon jug, but 4,000 of them.
Yeah, how many think it's realistically how many can you sell of those?
Yeah,
keep them cold. I mean,
right.
If you sell 100 gallons in a day, that's a lot of gallon jugs in one day.
Yeah,
and 2,000 of them.
So yeah, that was an education too. That we'll stick to the wholesale. That's what we know, and but the margins are thin and they keep getting thinner, and so we got to figure out how to make it work. And,
so it's a never-ending.
Yep, it's been since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
So
And I'm sure you talked to your father. I talked to my grandfather, and he says the milk business has always been kind of crooked.
Yeah,
even way back in the 20s and 30s. That it's no different then than it was now. It's probably worse now.
It was it was worse before they had the milk marketing orders and stuff like that. It was much worse, which is why the milk marketing orders exist. But there's certain segments of the dairy industry, somewhere from the farmer to the consumer, and it's not any one segment. There's farmers that I wouldn't trust either, but there's a lot of crookedness here and there that
it's so weird. Milk, out of all the milk, is it kind of blows my mind to think that it's always been kind of this crooked business. It's weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're over as a farmer, you're over the barrel a little bit because it's a perishable product, and most people that are not in the dairy industry don't realize that by the time we get our milk check and know what the milk price is, milk's gone. It's already consumed. It's in the septic system now.
Yeah.
So, what kind of bargaining power do you have? When you get the milk check and I'm not going to sell it for that. Well, it's long gone.
It's
what
already
What are you going to do?
It's history.
And that's just the nature of milk it's a perishable product, and you have no negotiating power whatsoever. So that you hope that your co-op is working for you. I question whether the one we belong to is so big they no longer work for us. Certainly when we belong to a small local one, I would have felt that they really work for us. I kind of question it now, but I don't have any choice.
Yeah, that's a problem.
You can't switch to another one. And probably even if I did, there wouldn't be a lot of difference. There's so much milk out there that we have no negotiating power whatsoever.
Yeah, we're too good at in terms of we make cows. Show a line graph of production. We're too good.
As an industry, our ability to market our product has not kept up with our ability to make it. We've done really well at getting better at making milk. We know so much more about how a cow works and how to provide for her needs, nutritionally and socially and physically, all of them. We've made so many changes in the last 10 years that, as an industry, we've way outproduced our ability to market it. The people that market our product for us have not kept up.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. Kind of, not to get into anything, but that the deductions for the advertising, you kind of question whether that's going to as being spent as well as it could be.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has an idea of how they make it better, and once again, go back to the Farm Bureau days. The more the American Farm Bureau started investigating how they would change the milk marketing orders and how milk is priced, and I was following that some. I wasn't deeply involved with it, but I was following it as I was on the board because I was getting information, which I don't get that information anymore. But I was when I was on the board, and the more I learned about how milk was priced and marketed, the more I found I know nothing about it. There's certain quirks to it that I know nothing. Anybody that says they know how milk is priced and marketed, they're probably lying.
I think Andy Novakovic is probably the best person who could.
I would be willing to bet there's probably 6 people in the whole country that know.
Yeah.
The rest of us have no idea.
Yeah. It's so, yeah. If you ever want to have a long circling conversation, ask a farmer how milk is priced.
Yeah. Milk is really bad, but all food is a little weird.
How it's priced.
Yeah, I read in one of the farm magazines a number of years ago, there's more words in the regulation for selling asparagus than there is in the Bible. And that's just the way. And there's so much regulation that goes with selling food and, marketing food. And milk is probably one of the worst ones. That, and not all of it makes sense. And what makes sense in one part of the country does not make sense in another. And so when you go to Washington, D.C., and we want to have one blanket thing, it's almost impossible to get because it just doesn't work in many parts. So
not a one-size-fits-all.
Right. So it's a difficult thing. And certainly I'm readily admit I don't know how milk is priced. I probably know more than somebody, the average guy on the street, but I'm far from an expert. So it still comes down to the milk truck comes, takes it away, and the milk check comes 30 days later.
Yeah, a month later. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we'll kind of get towards the end, try to learn a little bit more about you as just, Paul the farmer. And then Paul, you said you don't do a whole lot. You basically farm. You must have hobbies or stuff you enjoy doing off farm.
I can't say that I do. So, my family, my father's side and my mother's side, both of them are very, at least growing up, very much dairy. So I had, both my grandparents were dairy farmers, obviously my parents. I have aunts and uncles on both sides, they're dairy farmers. So, family reunions, we talked about cows. So we don't get off the farm much. The farm provides a lot of opportunity for whatever interest you have. 1 minute you're an electrician, next minute you're a vet, and then you're a mechanic and
HR.
Yeah. And if you want to, we got waterfalls on our farm, not big ones, but enough that, hey, if you want a peaceful place to go, there's places to go. So even going to a state park is like, I got this at home. So we don't get out much. We certainly are workaholics, I guess. We went down, my wife and I went down to Florida, which is where my mother-in-law lives, and walk along the beach. And I post on Facebook, this is me thinking about cows. It's really true. You're walking along, soaking your feet in the water and thinking about how can I do this better at home. It's hard to get out of that. As I said, there's not a day goes by where I don't, from the time I was born to now, that I wasn't thinking about or around cows. In college, it was all about cows, and never got out of it. So as far as, the Fouts is, at least, I don't know about, some of the family, but the most direct relation that I have, we're not very coordinated. So we're terrible in sports. We're the last ones picked in the gym class. And, I always joke that I got picked after the paraplegic in the wheelchair. So, and what we watch on TV is agriculturally related somehow. I watched Clarkson Farm, and that was great. That was entertaining. So my wife kind of ridicules me a little bit. She we go someplace and I want to go see the dairy farm that's down the road, and she's like, no, you're not doing that. When we went on our honeymoon, we went to New Zealand and went around visiting farms. We got to see the farms, and we didn't go in the big tourist areas there. We hooked up with some farmer that took us around and saw the back roads, and
you saw real New Zealand.
To some extent. Yeah. And but it was all, this is how we dairy in New Zealand. It was still cows. So as I said, I'm not the most interesting person to invite to a party, but if you need somebody that can drive a skid steer, I probably can get you there.
Skid steer party.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Parade. Need someone to drive something in a parade.
Yeah. Or if your cows are out, I can help you out.
Yeah. Go chase them.
Yeah. I can. I was, one thing I posted on Facebook once was, I can throw grain with a shovel with a fair amount of accuracy, but you put that grain in a little tiny sack and have me throw it at a hole in an inclined plane. I can't come close. So I'll stick to my feed bin, and that's what I'm good at.
So if Paul had nothing to do with dairy or agriculture, what do you think you would be doing as a career? You ever thought about that?
Yeah, that thought's come to mind. Well, to start out with, we go back when I was had to figure out what I was going to do. There was a brief moment of time where I looked into going to the military, but then Desert Storm came out and decided that I didn't particularly want to be shot at in some other country around the world. I went to college initially to be an engineer. Halfway through, I realized that if I was going to go home, I better study to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to be an engineer. But yeah, that thought has come to mind. If we didn't farm, if we didn't figure out how to keep this thing profitable, what would we do? And it's also come to mind that, as eventually I would assume that I would become a grandparent sometime. And if they aren't right here nearby, I probably would try to follow them. As my parents pass on, and there's less family ties to it. But I don't know what I would do. I can't physically take construction, but I'm good with equipment. Probably to my wife's dismay, I would probably find a farm and help out. But I don't know. There's so much that a dairy farmer does that it'd be applicable elsewhere. But it's all I've ever known. I really don't know what I would do.
Well, you said you have so many skills. Like, you're a mechanic one minute, you're a herdsman, you're an electrician.
Yeah, but I don't have to do it all the time
either.
Yeah,
no.
I can move on.
But you have so many useful skills where, like I said, honestly, like working for another farm would be very valuable to the, if you ever wanted.
Certainly I could provide a lot of value to that farm. I wouldn't. I could have all the fun with none of the risk. That would be. But I'm not sure if it would pay very well. But yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully, I'm not. I don't have to answer that question.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of things that would be interesting to me. It's just I've never experienced anything else. This is what I've always done, all the way through. So, and I was fortunate enough to been able to do it with both sets of grandparents there, and both of them lived there, and my parents there. So and my uncle wasn't far away. Really none of them were far away, but I've been very fortunate to be able to do it with so much family through the years, and I've learned. I was able to learn from their experiences, not just my own. So the wealth of information that I was exposed to was just incredible.
Yeah.
Very, very, very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. There's definitely something cool about being able to work with, sometimes I never really had that opportunity to work with multiple generations. My grandfather passed away when I was about 5 on my dad's side, but being able to work with, like you did with your father, even though some days you probably, you want to rip your hair out, but you get over it and you move on, but it's very rewarding. Yeah. But it can be very rewarding at the end of the day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. As long as you never lose that respect for each other, you can fight and scream all you want, but if you don't never lose that respect for each other, at the end of the day, it's well worth it.
Definitely.
And so it's been a great ride.
Yeah. Well, there's still a lot to come for you.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So, but it's a lot tougher when you're in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
When you're in the back seat and helping out, it's a lot easier. Yeah.
I'm slowly getting to sitting up front with my dad now and kind of driving side by side. I can see how, there's a lot of times where, I lean on him for, hey, what about, he just has more experience than I do for some of these things. And I can, there's a lot that I know, but there's a lot more that he knows that I don't know. And it's nice to be able to access that information by a phone call or stop in the house and, hey, I got this going on.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, my grandfather had Alzheimer's towards the end. So take advantage of that while you got it, because you never know. That goes away. Yeah. And it's tough to watch it, but so yeah, as the older generation gets older, you learn that you really wished you asked more questions. So that's getting too sentimental.
Nah.
But it's you can't beat a family business as long as you never lose the respect for each other. You just can't beat it.
Yeah.
And that's why if my kids don't come home and they get kids of their own, and that leaves me alone, and the families, as my parents pass on, and the older generation passes on, my aunts and uncles and stuff, those family ties are there. I'm sure it will not be the same. It just won't feel the same. And so then that question is going to come up. What am I going to do? But because family comes first.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And so we'll see.
Yeah.
The future's always fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's it still has to be written. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we can control.
Yeah, to some extent.
You can't control what you did. You can control what you're doing now, but the future is up to you.
Yeah, you can't change what happened in the past, but you can learn from it and try to direct the future a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So. Well, Paul, I don't know, anything else you'd like to talk about, or anything we missed, or
I don't know.
I thought this is really good. I learned a lot, and it was cool I didn't know, learned a lot about your farm and the history. So this has been a fun one to do.
It's certainly changed a lot over the years. So probably most of the people that watch this don't know what our farm. Of course, you want to show a picture of the farm, or but as you go by, anything that was yellow is what, for the most part, what was there when my grandfather was there. He's the one, as far as I know, he's the one that painted it yellow, but all the rest of it was.
I can throw a picture in with this after we're done, in the editing.
But anything that is not in yellow are the changes that were made by our family. some my grandfather and some my father, and certainly a lot by me. I probably had the biggest influence on the checkbook as far as how much I took out, but
and how much went in.
Well, that's the idea. Yeah. There's been moments where I'm questioning whether I put enough back in, but yeah, you look at the changes since I've been there, and massive. We made some massive changes.
Yeah.
So hopefully for the best.
Cool. Well, I guess we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks, Paul, for stopping in. It's been a lot of fun. And
it's always fun to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Or with you guys, I guess is more the way you put it. We can always learn from each other.
Definitely. That's why these are so much fun. You always can learn, little tidbits about one another, or just how you farm, or why you farm. And so it's,
to some extent, herd size is irrelevant. A cow's a cow. How do you deal with the problems that arise? So.
We all have the same problems, whether they're just in bigger scales.
Right.
We all deal with the same stuff. It's just, I have 200, you have 2,000. Well, we're dealing with the same stuff every day. Just you have a lot bigger.
So the magnitude's different.
Yeah, you have a lot more. I have a headache, so you have a lot more, but they're probably the same.
Yeah, they have the same roots anyways. So
yeah.
But
thanks everyone for watching, and I guess check out Paul's Facebook. I don't know if I guess someone had to friend request, or maybe
have to search my name and friend request, and as long as
you have an idea of who they are.
Yeah, I look through a little bit to see what kind of stuff that they deal with, put out there, and if it looks like it could be friendly, then I'll accept them. I got a lot of people on my friends list I've never met.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But I don't put much stuff, anything out there public to speak of anymore.
Okay. So check Paul out, and thanks for watching, and catch you in the next video.